Representative Lauren Carson, thanks for joining us today to talk about short-term rentals here in Rhode Island.
You are welcome. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. So you formed this commission at the State House. What are you guys tracking? Are you tracking the number of rentals and where they are?
Well, the study commission was created in 2023 by resolution, and in 2024 it was continued into next year. We have we have a variety of stakeholders on the study commission: tourism folks, owners of short-term rentals, legislators, planning folks from the State Department of Planning. We have taxation on it. We have a mix of people that whose profession would interplay with this industry particularly. And we have looked at a variety of things. We spent the first couple months looking at what municipalities have done. Municipalities kind of got out ahead of the state. What had happened was in about 7 to 10 municipalities, they started putting ordinances on the ground. And so we found after a few months that there were different ordinances on the ground across the state. Tiverton was doing this, Exeter was doing this, Narragansett was doing that. So we have an inventory of those ordinances. And it's important to realize that there's two lanes here for governing short-term rentals. There's the municipal lane, and then there's the state lane, right? So, and that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned in the past few months. As this study commission continues working, there are going to be things that really are left to the municipality to govern. For example, zoning. So the topics that we have looked into include bringing the munis in and hearing what they're doing, how they're managing them in their towns. We've looked at how the taxes are handled through taxation. We've looked at insurance. We spent this week, just yesterday, bringing in the Department of Business Regulation and insurance agents to learn about the liability insurance, the concerns, making sure that property owners are protected and guests are protected. We brought the tourism folks in. We had Block Island come in, and we had Providence come in, and they gave us some numbers about the growth of short-term rentals in their markets. We have looked at the registration system. The state registration system, which I created with Senator Hoyer, is a place that we can look for the actual number of short-term rentals, and we're actually making some changes to that if you want to dig into that. And then some municipalities have registration systems. So we've looked at a lot of different things. We're not quite done yet. I don't think we've come to any conclusions yet, but it's a complicated subject. It's running in place, keeping up with this industry because it's changing all the time. And hopefully next year, I think we will have some recommendations. We may need to keep working on a few more after that. We're not quite there settled yet on our recommendations.
Now, you did mention your meeting yesterday where you guys spoke about economic and social impacts of these rentals. You said some changes did come out of that meeting. Can you explain?
Yesterday's meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yesterday's meeting, we had two folks come in. The insurance came out of fire and health because we had the state fire marshal come in, and we had some fire departments come in and tell us how they're handling inspection and the safety things, the safety recommendations that they would make. And out of that came insurance. We were like, well, gee, maybe we should look at insurance next. And so Elizabeth Dwyer, the director of DBR, offered to come in, and she explained to us all the different homeowners policies. And then we had a gentleman that's active with the independent insurance agents, and he gave his point of view. I think what we learned yesterday, and what I learned, I'll speak for myself, is that I'm not sure that we can regulate that short-term rentals have insurance. I think that the most important thing is trying to figure out to make sure that short-term rental owners know that they need specific types of insurance. They need to be covered. I mean, if someone falls in their home, their homeowner policy may not cover it if they have rented the house out. They may say, well, we gave you a homeowner policy. That's our contract with you. But we doesn't anticipate that you would be renting it out 50 nights a year. So there may be loopholes there or gaps there on the liability for property owners. And I think we didn't come to any conclusion on that yesterday. But my concern is making sure that short-term rental property owners in Rhode Island are protected and they know how to get protected. And I'm also want to make sure that their guests are protected. So that was yesterday's discussion.
And speaking of the things that could potentially go wrong, I know that one of the concerns is people renting to have a party. Airbnb actually announced an initiative to crack down on that right around Halloween. Is that a concern in Rhode Island that people could be renting perhaps in Newport or Providence to have a Halloween party?
It's always a problem. I mean, what I say is that there are responsible short-term rental owners out there that, make sure that they're renting to people that understand the rules, understand the neighborhood, and then there are folks that just don't pay attention to the rules. And, clearly there are rentals going to bridal parties in Newport. We're a big bride wedding destination, and the concern is that if you live in a neighborhood, I live in a residential neighborhood, and all of a sudden next door you got a party house. Like that's a legitimate concern on the part of neighborhoods. That's why the tool that the municipalities have is zoning and where they put these commercial entities. And those have been the tools that some municipalities have used. And in one or two lawsuits, the zoning has held up. That way, at least if we're going to have short-term rentals, conceptually, at least they're in commercial districts. That's a concept out there that I think has held up in the courts. And I think that it keeps neighborhoods safer, quieter, and residential. So again, there's two avenues. There's the municipal and there's the state. And I think that municipalities are really more prepared to handle that type of activity.
Yeah, so it sounds like
I don't think the state can say like you can't have a house here. That's not state policy.
Right. So in other words, it's kind of up to the cities and towns to individually crack down on any type of parties that they could be having.
I think it is. I think it is at this point in time. I think that when I think forward about whatever policy recommendations we're going to make, it's just easier to think in those two terms. This is the stuff that municipalities govern and manage. Police will come, fire will come, zoning ordinances will kick in. That's all municipal. Those are their tools in their toolbox. The tools in the state toolbox, we haven't decided yet, but may revolve around fire inspections, fire regs. They're all state legislated. Taxation, those are state issues. And then trying to figure out a way to work on the registration system so that it's more effective.
All right, Representative Carson, thanks for joining us today and giving us an update on your work as the commission. We appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.